down, I rose in the House. I read the statement that most of you have, and I was very happy that we were able to move the motion, at least recognizing that there were atrocities against humanity at that point in time. There's work that we still have to do in order to recognize it as a genocide, and it might take us 22 years, as long as they took the Armenians. But you know, I hope that I'm alive, I hope that I'm around, and I hope that I'm still there with you, as one day we will also recognize what happened as a genocide. I'm going to leave you with one last challenge. How many of you know how many countries have recognized what happened in Halabja and what happened to the church, and how many countries has it been recognized? 2. United States and Canada, and at the United Nations. Now, Mr. Mirakian, how many countries have recognized the Armenian genocide? 21. You got 19 to go. Okay? If that means one country a year, if that means one country a month, you got a lot of work to do. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karagiannis, for your continued support to the Kurdish Canadians. As always, thank you for me personally, and thank you for putting Motion 505 forth in the Canadian Parliament. Again, a sincere thank you.
Thank you.
And now, MPP Dr. Reza Moulidi. Please join us.
Thank you very much for the kind invitation to participate in this event, ladies and gentlemen. We are here this afternoon to commemorate the event which happened in halabja and also anfal under the Saddam regime about 22 years ago in 1988, where thousands and thousands of people were massacred or genocide happened. I'm not going to get into the details of the legal definitions of massacre or genocide or Holocaust, but there's one thing for sure we have to keep in mind, that none of these events which happen in the world can be compared with the Holocaust in Germany and in Poland under the Hitler's regime. That has been a unique event which human race should not and must not forget. But when you look at the history, there has been lots of massacres. The history of nations, the fightings between the kings and the emperors. At least when you read the history of, for example, Persian Empire or Iranian Empire over the centuries. I'm sure some of the people here, they come from Iran and they have read the history, and when you read the history, you say, you know, another Shah attacked India and conquered India. So you read this just a page or two about this history, but you wonder what happened, this conquer, what happened. It wasn't just, you know, a change of government as we do have in Canada from time to time. You know, one prime minister leaves or one premier leaves, another comes in. It wasn't like that. When I was a kid, I was still a even young boy, reading history and again, you know, being proud Iranian that our king, you know, conquered India and conquered, for example, the other place. But once I was in India in 1983 attending an international conference in Delhi, and we have been taken to Red Fort, which is a historic place in Delhi, and there they had a light and sound show. And one part of this show was basically the conquest of India by Nadir Shah. And you see the story, and you hear the story from the other side, and then you wonder what he did. Well, one example is taking away all the jewelry from the Indian palace, bringing them to Iran, including Kohinoor Daryai and very many other jewelry. So that was just only one part of it. So in the past, nations, they have been killed each other. This was a part of history. I come from Iran, from this town called Urmia, and that town has seen a lot of massacres. People have been killed. My grandfather is a survivor of one of those massacres. I must tell you this. I'm not going to get into the details, but these things that happened in the past. If somebody's rifle worked, I wouldn't be here today. And my father and my all siblings wouldn't be here today. So what do we need to do for the future? For the future generations, I think what we need to do is we need to reconcile. We need, of course, to remember these events. We cannot forget, and we shouldn't forget. But we need to remember these things, these events. It's essential for us. But in the meantime, we need to talk, as the Honorable Yadi22 said. We need to talk to each other. We need to communicate. We need to speak. Last year, I brought a motion in the Ontario Parliament declaring February 21st, which had been declared by the United Nations as the International Mother Language Day, to proclaim February 21st as the International Mother Language Day in Ontario. And my motion was fortunately passed by unanimous consent by all parties, all members voted for that. So when I was doing a little research about this very point, I noticed that there are 6,000 languages that are spoken in the world, while there are only less than 200 countries around the world. So what is the solution for nations around the world? Do we need to redraw the border of countries on this planet and to create 6,000 countries? Of course not. So the other solution is that we accept each other's language. We accept each other's culture. There is almost no country, or maybe a few countries around the world, where that country is composed of one nation. All countries are multinational, multicultural. Just look at Turkey, for example. You have the Turks, you have the Kurds as two major communities, and of course there are others as well. Or in Iraq, for example, you have Arabs and the Kurds. In Iran, you have Persians and Farsis, and the Azeris, Kurds, Baluchis, Lors, Arabs, and the others too. So when you look at Pakistan, any country, when you look at Europe, in Europe you see small countries like Luxembourg, for example, or even countries such as Denmark and Belgium, Holland, countries with a few million people. These countries, they were part of Roman Empire in old days, and now they have been carved up, and now they're smaller countries. So, and then Europe are going to unite. These countries are united. They became a European Union. So, for countries around the world, the only solution is to accept each other's culture, to accept each other's language. And if you do that, then you'll be able to talk to each other, as Yadi22 rightly mentioned at that very point, that people can speak to each other, to accept each other's culture. If we accept each other's culture, then so much of the world's problems are going to be solved. And respecting to the human rights. Once you respect the human rights, then you have established the groundwork for democracy. And democracy can happen in a country where you respect human rights and also the rights of ethnic communities. If you don't accept the rights of ethnic